Welcome to Does It Matter by Brainy Ballers, where we dissect the game with cutting-edge analytics to give you the upper hand. We analyze everything from hand sizes to average depth of targets to uncover hidden trends that no one else sees. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to data-driven domination. Because here at Brainy Ballers, we don't just watch the game, we understand it. So get ready, it's podcast time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into maybe an unexpected area, the overlap between NFL Combine performance and fantasy football success.
Yeah, it's not something people always connect directly.
Exactly. Specifically, we're zeroing in on linebackers and their 40-yard dash times. For you fantasy managers listening, we've got sources tackling this really interesting question. Does a linebacker's speed, that 40 time, actually predict how well they'll do in your fantasy league? So our mission today is really to unpack what the data says about this.
It's a compelling idea, isn't it? Taking something so specific like a 40 time and trying to link it to fantasy performance, which is so dynamic. This deep dive, well, it's about cutting through the noise and giving you data-backed insights. That's the goal.
Okay, let's get into it then. The sources lay out a pretty clear methodology.
He did. Very systematic.
So the researchers looked at the top 50 fantasy football finishers for linebackers since 2003. And they defined the bottom 10 as players ranked 41st to 50th each year.
So why the top 50? Why that specific number?
Good question. They said they wanted a kind of happy medium.
Okay.
Broad enough to compare the really good players to the less productive ones, but not so broad that you get fringe guys skewing the results. Makes sense.
It does. And what's fascinating is how they broke it down. They categorized these finishers, top 5, top 10, then the next group 11th, 30th, and finally 31st, 50th.
And what came out of that grouping?
Well, they found this subtle but actually quite clear trend. In 15 out of the 21 seasons they looked at, which is, 71.4% of the time?
Yeah.
The top 10 fantasy linebackers had the same or even faster 40-yard dash times compared to the guys finishing 31st to 50th.
Wow, okay. So over 70% of the time, faster guys finished higher. That seems pretty significant.
It really hints that faster times tend to line up with better fantasy scores.
So nearly 3/4 of the time, faster means better. But what about that other roughly quarter of the time? Does the study give any clues why some slower linebackers might still do really well? Or what else is going on there?
That's a great point. And it shows, it's not just about speed. Real-world performance is complex.
Right.
Linebackers obviously need instincts, tackling ability, how they read plays, coverage skills, a whole package.
Sure.
But for those faster players, you can see how that quickness probably translates pretty directly into fantasy points.
Like what?
Well, think about it. Faster pursuit means more tackles, potentially. Quicker reads might lead to more interceptions. Or maybe that extra burst gets them sacks.
Okay. Those are the plays that really rack up points in fantasy.
Exactly. So while other skills matter, speed seems to give them more opportunities for those big point plays.
Got it. So with that trend identified, what did the researchers do next? Did they try to find a specific speed threshold?
Precisely. They wanted to find that sweet spot if there was one. They used something called a differences chart. Basically, it's a way to visualize the 40 times, comparing the top 10 group directly against the bottom 10 group, looking for a cutoff.
Interesting.
And their first look pointed towards...
Do you want to start dominating your drafts? At brainyballers.com, we've researched every metric under the sun for you to find which ones are best linked to fantasy points. You can access hundreds of metrics to sharpen your scouting abilities so you know which metrics matter and which are just noise. Stop guessing on which thresholds to look for within each metric. Big numbers can be misleading or irrelevant. Our ultimate athlete blueprints reveal essential scouting metrics, their importance, and benchmarks within each metric that help predict a player's probability of being a success or bust. Elevate your scouting ability with Brainy Ballers' Ultimate Athlete Blueprints today. Click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
4.62 seconds and below. That seemed like a potential key zone.
Okay, 4.62. But did they just stop there? Or?
Nope, they didn't stop there. They really dug in to verify it, tested various ranges right around that mark.
Yeah.
And the data kept pointing to one specific range as optimal, 4.60 seconds and below.
Okay. So slightly faster even, 4.60.
Exactly. And linebackers hitting that 4.60 or faster mark, they had a 17.5% higher rate of finishing in the top 10 compared to those in the bottom 10 group.
Wow, 17.5%. That feels like a real edge.
It's definitely noticeable, a significant bump in probability.
But, in fantasy football, there are so many things that influence a player's score each week, each season. How statistically solid is that 17.5% finding, really? Did they quantify the strength of that connection?
They did. To add that statistical weight, they included a Pearson value.
Okay, Pearson value. Remind us what that tells us.
Sure. Think of it like a score. It measures how strongly two things are related and if they move together or in opposite directions.
Right.
A negative number, like they found here, means it's an inverse correlation. As one thing goes down, in this case, faster 40 times, so lower numbers, the other thing goes up, higher fantasy success.
Gotcha. So what was the number?
For linebacker 40 times and fantasy production, the Pearson value was negative 0.125.
Okay, negative 0.125. How does that compare to other factors we know matter?
Well, for context, something most people accept as important, like quarterback draft capital predicting success, that had a Pearson value of negative 0.219 in similar studies.
Okay. So QB draft spot has a stronger negative correlation. The linebacker speed link is definitely there and measurable.
Exactly. It shows that while speed isn't the only thing for linebackers, it clearly has measurable importance. And interestingly, they noted this optimal range seems to have become even more significant in the last decade or so.
That is interesting. Maybe reflecting how the game itself is getting faster.
Could be. Definitely suggests it's a factor worth paying attention to, maybe increasingly so.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. What's the big takeaway for you, the fantasy manager listening right now? Speed isn't everything. We know that. But this deep dive strongly suggests there's a real tangible link between faster 40 times and better fantasy finishes for linebackers. And that magic number, the optimal range we talked about, is 4.60 seconds and below. Hitting that mark correlates with about a 17.5% better chance of being a top 10 fantasy performer.
Yeah, it's a useful data point. And this whole deep dive, it pushes us to maybe look beyond just the highlight reels or the conventional wisdom sometimes and ask what other little combine stats might hold some value.
Right. Like, are there other drills we should be looking at more closely?
Exactly. It shows that sometimes these small details, these seemingly minor metrics, they can actually make a measurable difference in the big picture outcomes.
So, a final thought for everyone listening. What specific combine drills do you think might be the most underrated for predicting fantasy success at other positions, maybe? Something to mull over before your next draft.